The Chicago Bears and the Los Angeles Rams both looked beatable in their wild card playoff games and then looked unstoppable down the stretch in the fourth quarter. So then what's going to give? Who's going to come out on top in the divisional round? We'll break it all down on today's Locked On Bears, Locked On Rams crossover podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into our crossover Thursday, Locked On Rams and Locked On Bears podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears alongside Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams, getting you ready for this divisional round matchup. We're going to look at the top storylines for both teams coming into this game, the biggest matchups, keys to victory on both sides, and what to expect in what should be maybe the most fun and exciting of the divisional round playoff games, at least in the NFC. I think I'm looking forward to this one more than anything else. A reminder, our crossover Thursday is presented by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Travis, I come into this game from a Bears perspective feeling like the Rams are the favorite for a reason. Like, they are the better team. I don't come into this game thinking like, oh, the Bears should be able to take care of business and beat the Rams. I come in feeling more like, oh, Chicago needs to get a little lucky, maybe the way they did late against Green Bay, and they can potentially win this game, but I don't feel confident about them coming in and being, quote unquote, the better team, but it just comes down to maybe being the luckier team. Well, how do you feel about the stability of the Rams coming off of the Panthers game?
Yeah, I think your instincts are about right. And the thing that I would add to it, Lauren, is that the Rams have allowed other teams that might not be, player for player as talented as maybe they are to hang around for a while. The Rams really haven't played a 4-quarter football game in the better part of about 6 weeks. They've had moments where they've been terrific, where they've had even 2 or 3 or 3.5 quarters where they've been terrific, but they have not put a full game together really since probably, mid-November. They've been really struggling in one aspect of the game or another. The one thing that has been pretty consistent throughout all of it has been the offense, but their secondary has all sorts of question marks in it. Their special teams have all sorts of question marks in it. And, we all watched all the games this week, and the Rams were fortunate to leave Carolina with a win despite being 10.5-point favorites, despite having a chance to kind of end the game in the first half. They let a team hang around, and that has been something that they've struggled with the last 6 weeks or so.
There's some real similarities there between both teams because I think I would describe some of the Bears' struggles the same way, right? It's not one thing every week that's holding them back, like, the offensive line or whatever, and that's why the offense starts slow or whatever. Like, every week it's like a little bit of something different, a drop pass here, a penalty there, a miscue here and there, that just like you're kind of waiting for the team to just kind of get its stuff together and put together that performance, and yet they haven't been able to consistently do that for 4 quarters. So I'm really curious how, I guess, what version of both teams we get in Sunday's matchup, because I think of the Rams as certainly the more playoff experienced veteran team that I look at, like McVay and Stafford over there, and I say, wow, that's a team I really have a lot of trust in, that they're going to figure it out in the playoffs. And yet the Bears have done this every single week through the regular season, and now in the playoffs that they'll stink for 3 or 4 quarters, and then in the final 5 minutes of the game, they look like the best team in the NFL and find a way to win. And it's just a question of like, will that luck run out against the Rams, or will they keep rolling and find another way to pull off the miraculous comeback?
Yeah, you said something that I've kind of hung my hat on really for years doing Locked On here, especially, the Rams thankfully have been pretty good most of the time that I've been here, and they go into the playoffs and we're having these discussions frequently. And I'm a big believer in playoff games frequently. I wouldn't say always, but frequently come down to who has the better coach, who has the better quarterback. I like the Rams' chances in both of those categories in a lot of matchups. Now, this one is a little more interesting. I think that last week when they played Carolina, Bryce Young, Matthew Stafford, I don't think there's much of a contest right there. And Dave Canales has done a good job in Carolina, but he has not had the experience that Sean McVay had. The Bears I look at a little bit differently, because Ben Johnson clearly has figured out how to turn this team from what they were a year ago into what they are now. So he obviously is a very, very good coach. Now, the experience factor tilts heavily towards McVay. Caleb Williams, we got to see a lot of him out here in LA, and I'm a huge fan of his. I think he's really good. Now, he's a little bit like this at times, but He's really good. Now, do I think Matthew Stafford is better? Yeah, but I think the gap in both of those things has gotten far more narrow than I think we would have thought about a month or 2 months ago. And the Bears scare the daylights out of me. And I think I saw this on TV on Saturday night, but they've won a game 7 times despite being behind at the 2-minute warning. That's bananas. That is really, really bizarre. And once, sure, you get lucky. 2 times, yeah, okay, wow. 7's not luck. 7 means you have a knack in how to do those things. So, the Rams have had trouble putting teams away, and if they don't put this Bears team away, I am concerned that Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson will find a way to do what they've done for an 8th time.
Yeah, the fun stat coming out of the playoff game last week was the Bears have played the Packers 3 times this season. They have led for 0 offensive snaps and won 2 of those games. They have not led in and did not snap the ball on offense with a lead against the Green Bay Packers this season, and they're 2-1 in those matchups. So it's just that like sliver of a doubt that's always going to be in opponents' heads, and I think Bears fans are left like saying like, well, when can they have a game that's not going to be that desperate at the end? And you mentioned briefly you're confident the Rams offense is locked in, good to go. Maybe some concerns in the secondary and the special teams. I guess does that lend its idea to maybe a little bit more of a shootout type of game, not necessarily like 41-38, but just that maybe are you concerned about the Bears offense maybe getting rolling a little bit quicker than it did last week because of these Rams secondary concerns, or is the feeling like, well, the Panthers were one thing, but maybe against Chicago they can right the ship a little bit?
No, if anything, I think it's going to get worse. I think that when you look at what the Bears are going to bring to the table relative to what Carolina brought to the, this is a problem that they have had all season long, especially when you go up against a team that has quality wide receivers. The Bears, in my opinion, have 2 very good wide receivers. So the Rams have their best corner right now is Kobe Durant, maybe. And there just isn't a lot of strength in the team down there. Emmanuel Forbes has been getting taken advantage of most of the season. Akilla Witherspoon, who's kind of a good play, bad play guy, he's out for the playoffs. He broke his clavicle again, so he's done. So you're getting even into depth at a position where you didn't have a lot of frontline, success to begin with. So I really do worry about it. The Rams defense has a really quality pass rush, but if they can't get home and get home really quickly, it doesn't really matter all that much. So I think that Caleb Williams is a better quarterback than we've seen. Certainly I think he's better than Kirk Cousins. I think he's better than Bryce Young. I think he's better than Jacoby Brissett, the guys that we've seen over the last few weeks that the Rams have played. All of those guys have kind of lit it up against the Rams. So I do expect a game that's scored. I know it's supposed to be cold. I know there's the chance of snow, so that may mitigate some of that stuff. But if the Rams are going to win this game, I think they're going to have to be in the 30s because that's just the way that they've been playing lately. And I certainly think the Bears are capable of getting up there with them.
Yeah, the problem for Chicago is that their defense is not good. Like, this is not a good Bears defense at all. It's sometimes passable. I think that's how I would describe it. It's not good. It's sometimes passable. And it seems like every week they go into the game a little bit stubborn. Dennis Allen's a little bit stubborn sometimes as a defensive coordinator and says like, hey, we're going to come out and we're going to play a lot of man coverage, but we don't have a pass rush. So by halftime, we're down 3 scores and we got to adjust to the second half, and then they'll play more zone and they'll blitz a little bit more. And somehow every single week they come to the same realizations that the stuff they were trying to start the game isn't going to work. So that's a real concern, I think, for Bears fans coming into this game, that like they're going to try and match up their injured bad secondary one-on-one with Puka Nacua on the outside and feel like that's not going to go very well, feeling like they got to throw as many bodies as they can at him. And once you do that, Devontae Adams and Colby Parkinson and everybody else is going to be open as well. So I have a feeling this Rams offense isn't going to have too much trouble getting rolling. It's been a question of like, can they do that for 4 quarters? Because we saw even Green Bay last week scored 3 touchdowns on their first 3 drives and then 6 points the rest of the game, I think it was, and settling for field goals in the second half, punting a bunch in the second half when they seemed unstoppable in the first half. And I guess I'm curious, when you see the inconsistency from the Lions, is it mostly defense that you see the ups and downs, or are there times when the offense takes the foot off the gas a little bit, or how consistent have they been for 4 quarters?
The offense has been really good almost the entire year. It is a really fun offense to watch. It is multifaceted. And you mentioned, when they drafted Puka Nacua a few years ago, it's like, okay, that's kind of an interesting guy, and let's see what it looks like. And he shows up, and you're like, oh, he's way better than a 5th round draft pick. This is exciting. Well, he's morphed into quite arguably the best wide receiver in the entire NFL. And he is, yes, the trajectory of his ability keeps getting better and better and better. Like you mentioned, Davante Adams. If Davante Adams is your second best wide receiver, you got a pretty good crew of wide receivers because he's had led the league in touchdown receptions along the way. They got a couple, if not three different tight ends that can catch passes. They've got two running backs in Blake Corum and Kyron Williams who are pretty good. And then you got a Matthew Stafford who there's really nothing he hasn't seen before. So you're not really going to, put him in a position where he's trying to figure out what it is that he's looking at. He's just a really experienced quarterback. If the offense stalls, I will be surprised. They're able to move. They're able to score. They're really aggressive. Matthew Stafford is, I think he's going to win the MVP, or at least he's going to finish in the top two of the MVP race. I don't think that the Rams will lose this game because it's 14-13. I don't think that's unless the weather goes haywire, which is always a possibility. But I expect the game to be played in the 30s, and if they can get a stop or two more than the Bears, I like their chances.
Good chance the score is higher than the temperature for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll take a closer look at some of those matchups of how the Bears might try and cover Puka Nacua and how the Rams might try and cover Colston Loveland and Rome Odunze as we continue our Crossover Thursday Locked on Rams, Locked on Bears podcast. Today's Crossover Thursday podcast is brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo. The smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. It works right from your phone or computer. You can even keep your existing phone number and have your whole team call and text from one business number so nothing gets missed. It's no surprise, Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. So make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's quo.com/lockedonnfl. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. Our Crossover Thursday is also brought to you by Ultimate Football QB. If you ever wanted to become a pro quarterback and maybe get drafted first overall like a Caleb Williams or a Matthew Stafford, now I think about it, well, you can. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a #1 draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness and to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. It's the #1 QB career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. You're talking about signing contracts, training and upgrading yourself. You even give input to your general manager on roster moves to rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. Ultimate QB is totally free to play. It has no ads and works 100% offline. It's perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special for you guys. If you use our promo code Locked On in all caps in the game's store, you're going to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend. QB1. It's your legacy. All right, as we continue our Crossover Thursday Locked on Rams, Locked on Bears podcast, I want to get into some of the biggest matchups in this game. I think from a Bears perspective, I'm very scared about how they're going to try and cover Puka Nacua. I might be even more scared about this Bears offensive line having to turn to a new left tackle this week. Their left tackle, Ozzie Trapillo, got injured at the end of the Packers game. I don't know if it was a torn or a ruptured patella tendon. Either way, he's done and he's going to need some surgery or whatever, and it's going to be an offseason recovery. So he was a rookie second-round pick. They now go likely to former undrafted free agent Theo Benedette, who they've been using as a 6 offensive lineman tight end. Actually, at one point against the Packers, they lined him up at outside wide receiver, and he ran a deep post route as just a decoy. Okay. In a flood concept, he was just taking the top off. So they move him around quite a bit. He started a few games at left tackle this season. I think there's a concern that's not so much that he's a massive drop off in terms of talent necessarily, but that he just hasn't been out there for 6-8 weeks. So it's just that cohesion with the offensive line of knowing Caleb and knowing, just sort of being able to pass off blocks in the running game versus the Rams on the other side with a pretty feisty pass rush there, whether it's Byron Young or Jared Verse when they rotate guys around. If Chris Shula's going to blitz on that side, that blind side is going to be a real concern for Chicago because the rest of the offensive line they feel good about.
Yeah, the Rams pass rush is really interesting because they're really good at almost getting home. They're really good at flushing guys out of the pocket. Jared Verse, I think, is a really high-level player. Byron Young, like you mentioned, got off to a really terrific start. The first half of the season, Byron Young was one of the sack leaders in the entire league. He really cooled off in the second half. And then in the middle with guys like Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk, they can get a lot of pressure. But guys that can move their feet, quarterbacks that can move on their own, give them a great deal of trouble. And Caleb Williams is certainly one of those guys. So if Williams can buy himself an extra beat or two, that's where the Rams tend to get in a little bit of trouble. And if they can get the ball out quickly, that can give the Rams a little bit of trouble. That we've seen, this is a Kyle Shanahan special. We get to see the 49ers twice a year, every year in the NFC West. And that ball is like in the quarterback's hands and it's gone before you've even, caught the snap. It's almost like a shortstop turning a double play. He does it quick. And when they can do that, that gives the Rams a little bit of trouble. Now, when they know that it's a one-way go, when they know it's just a straight pass rush, they're pretty darn good because they can pin their ears back and just kind of go get a guy. But I am concerned about, even with the Bears offensive line maybe being a little bit shorthanded, that the way that Williams plays is typically a problem for the Rams in what they do. Matthew Stafford kind of just sits there. You know where he's going to be. He's not going to make you miss. He's going to beat you with his arm and with his brain. Caleb Williams can beat you with his arm, his brain, and his feet. So that's a concern of mine because the back end of that team for the Rams, that is the soft spot. Guys will be open. And you mentioned it a second ago. Loveland scares me too. The Rams linebackers are not particularly good. The guys they put in to cover tight ends have not been particularly effective. So I think some of the strengths of the Bears match up really well with some of the weaknesses of the Rams.
Yeah, certainly. Caleb is really hard to sack.
Yes,
he leads the NFL in throwaways this season as well. So it's the kind of thing where sometimes pressure can be enough because if you just disrupt that timing enough where he gets flushed out of the pocket, then it's a scramble drill, and he's not afraid to just dirt it or throw it to the sideline, but he's going to be looking downfield and trying to throw stuff. But like sometimes just, if he's not like Ben Johnson wants him 5-step hitch, throw that in breaking deep dig route, right? But the pressure, it's like, all right, now that route's not open because it was open for a second, but now you disrupted the timing. Now he's running around and you're scared while he's running around a little bit, but he's going to throw it away quite a bit in there. So it can be a weapon to say, like, get him under pressure and you're probably going to get an incomplete pass in a lot of ways. Not because it's some horribly inaccurate though, but he'll miss a few here and there. But just that he hasn't been super aggressive in terms of like scrambling, right? Like actually crossing the line of scrimmage as a runner. And I think that's something honestly Bears fans would like to see a little bit more from, just because there's free yards there sometimes that he won't always take because he wants to see that receiver downfield. He wants to make the big play, and he'll get one maybe on those scramble drills that maybe makes it all worth it. But sometimes it's like, just take the free yards that are sitting right there. On the other side, for this Rams secondary trying to cover, Loveland and Adunze and DJ Moore, are there certain things like Chris Shula does as a coordinator to try and mask when you have a weak secondary in terms of, playing a lot of zone coverage or trying to blitz to make up for it and just say, hey, we'll just be aggressive and get after the quarterback? Or is he content saying, hey, our 4-man rush is good enough, so we're going to rush 4 and live and die with hoping our guys can cover for 2 or 3 seconds and the pass rush can get home before then?
The last thing you said, they don't mix it up a ton. They don't send a blitz a ton. They trust, and I think the instinct is accurate. I think the instinct to trust that Jared Verse and Byron Young, Kobe Turner, and those guys, Braden Fisk, that they will get there because they have. Josiah Stewart has been really good over the last couple of games as well. So they've got lots of guys that can get there, but they don't do a lot of exotic sorts of things. They try to create pressure with their 4 guys. If they get it, it's pretty good. If they can't get there in time, then we get the secondary exploited. I think this is one of the great might be too strong of a word. One of the frustrations of Rams fans is it kind of is the same week after week defensively. Like, we do see some innovation and some different looks from the offense. The Rams went through the middle part of the season where they were running 13 personnel constantly, and then you get Devontae back and they're back to where they are, and it's Puka Devontae. But the defense is kind of the same, and you're going to get it week after week. And you hope, last week We got Quentin Lake back for the first time in the better part of a couple of months. And I think everybody was hoping that would kind of calm things down. A veteran player, a smart player that could kind of take some of the issues that you were having back there. Didn't really happen. Now, he hadn't played in a while, so hopefully this week is better than last week. But this and the special teams are the two things that, and even when the Rams have a big lead, and part of this is going back to that, the reason that we're in Chicago instead of in Los Angeles is they couldn't hold on to a 16-point lead deep into the fourth quarter against the Seattle Seahawks on a Thursday night, and they just couldn't. Sam Darnold cooked them. And so that, they have a real good success rate against Sam Darnold, but even then when he got going a little bit, they did not have an answer for him. So I expect them to play the same defense that they've been playing for most of the season. There are moments where it's really good. I don't mean to paint it like it is completely ineffective, but when it isn't effective, there are big plays to be had.
Well, I would paint the Bears secondary as ineffective. Their big plays come when the offense makes a mistake, right? If Stafford puts a ball in harm's way at all, or even if it's just a tipped pass at the line of scrimmage, or the Bears have had a couple picks that have hit receivers in the hands and they drop it and then it goes in the Bears' hands. Like there's been some luck involved, and those turnovers have been really what they live or die on. The Packers game was the first game all season they won without generating a defensive turnover, although they had 2 forced fumbles in that game that they did not recover. So there's some luck involved with that. But like Jalen Johnson is not the Pro Bowl all-pro cornerback this season that he was years past. He's been dealing with soft tissue injuries all season. He's not going to be on the injury report, but you'll see him running around out there and you'll think that guy's cooked. And he's only like 27, so he's not old. He's just really injured and not 100%, but still one of their better options out there. Kyler Gordon in the slot just came off of injured reserve. He's not 100% out there. Their backup slot, CJ Gardner-Johnson, had missed the last game with a concussion, so he might not be 100% out there if he ends up in the rotation. And so there's going to be some weaknesses there, and I certainly worry about the Rams being able to beat those guys one-on-one, and how both these secondaries play is going to be critical to both of these teams trying to get a win and get to the NFC Championship game. So we'll go through some of the biggest keys to victory for both sides, what a Rams win looks like, what a Bears win looks like, next on the Crossover Thursday Locked on Rams, Locked on Bears podcast. Our Crossover Thursday podcast is brought to you by Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference, and that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule. They've got 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or even quick lunches that you can just pop in and unwrap and be good to go with over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Recipes are simple but feel elevated. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. You must be an active subscriber to receive that free dessert. Our Crossover Thursday is also brought to you by Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper, but maybe wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored job posts directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of these shows get $75 in a sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on the podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. As we continue our Crossover Thursday, Locked on Rams, Locked on Bears podcast, I want to thank everyone for making either Locked on Rams or Locked on Bears your first listen today. We're part of Locked On Podcast Network. You've made us the #1 sports podcast network, and we really appreciate you being a part of that and tuning in each and every day and tuning in for the keys to victory for both sides. Travis, I think we both see the Rams as the favorite here, and the team that, like, I think we can fairly say they are the better team. So what does a consistent 4 quarters Rams, well played game look like here? Like, what do they have to do differently? That you mentioned it's a lot of different things that go wrong. Like, what are the things that can't go wrong, or they can't afford to go wrong, or need to just go right that we maybe haven't seen 4 full quarters of?
Yeah, I think there are 2 things, and I think that they go together. I think that when they have an opportunity to score points, they need to put points on the board. We saw in Carolina where it was a weird situation, because I kind of understand what Sean McVay was trying to do. He was trying to end the game in the first half. He was trying to put that 3-touchdown lead on the board and just have this thing just basically, let's get out of here. This game's over. Let's get ready for whatever's coming next. And he was really aggressive. They didn't get it. They ended up turning the ball over on downs. Carolina gets a couple of big plays. They put points on the board right before the end of the half. And what could have been a game over was a 1-point game at the half. So even in the moment, I'm like, let's kick that field goal. Let's go up, 13, 14, 16 points, whatever it is, opposed to try to blow this thing out early. So I think they need to get points when they have. But I think that goes together with the second thing, which is, look, the Rams fired Josh Carty in the middle of the season because he was just a hot mess. He wasn't making any kicks. Kicks were getting blocked all over the place. They bring in Harrison Mevis, who has been good. He's made every kick but one. The one kick he missed is the one kick that had pressure on it. So all of the kicks that he has made have been like, yeah, okay, whatever. If you miss it, the game still goes on. He had a chance to beat Seattle late in the game, and he missed it. So he's 0 for 1 in kicks that matter. So I think that's rattling around in the back of Sean McVay's head. They had a punt blocked against Carolina. They had a big return for a touchdown against Seattle. They've had a series of special team snafus really all season long. They fired Chase Blackburn late in the season, their special teams coach, brought in a new guy. It really hasn't changed it all that much. There seems to be some serious issues. So I think one thing leads to the next. I think they have to be a little more aggressive than they might like to be otherwise, because there's not a full amount of confidence in that third phase of the game. So when they get in scoring position, when they have opportunities to put up points, they need to, because if they score, I think they're going to win this game. Like we mentioned earlier, I just don't think that, again, weather aside, I think that this is going to be a game that's played, in the high 20s, low 30s, even maybe the mid 30s. And I do think that favors the Rams if they can get up there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I will say Bears special teams has been good. I don't know if I'll say great. I mean, it's hard to measure the difference there, but like, they've had occasionally a couple good returns here and there. They blocked a field goal here, and like, I think one, they blocked a punt, but it's not like they're like lights out, like, wow, that's a huge strength of this team necessarily, but it's like, it has come up with occasionally clutch plays when they've needed them. So it's not like something I'm counting on per se, but it's something that I feel like it's reliable for sure, and then occasionally does something good. So they certainly, I think if the Bears are going to pull off the upset in this game, they're going to need one of those, right? They're going to need a big return, a block, against the Packers. Even the Green Bay missed a field goal and an extra point that, like, the Bears won by 4. There's 4 points right there. Like, there's a little bit of that, like, the other team needs to help you along the way. And the Bears are going to need some of that, just a little bit from the Rams, whether it's their offense slowing down in the third or fourth quarter, whether it's a turnover or two that doesn't even necessarily have to be a bad play by the offense, but just, turnovers happen, some fumbles happen, interceptions happen sometimes that aren't always even the quarterback's fault. Like, I think the Bears are going to need, 1 or 2 extra gifts from the Rams somewhere in this game, because inevitably this Bears offense is going to start slow. Maybe not the first drive. They've been pretty good at, like, getting yards at the first drive, but like, the Bears aren't going to have more than 10 points at halftime, so it could very well be like a 21-7, 21-10 type of half where you're like, all right, well, here we go again. And then second half, it's that in the back of their mind, like, the Rams feel it slowly slipping away, or do they come out in the third quarter and put up a couple touchdowns and really feel like they're putting this Bears team away? Like, I think to me, a Bears victory is going to come down again to halftime adjustments and a fourth quarter comeback. And it's going to be who holds the ball last. And if the Rams hold the ball last, can the Bears rely on their inconsistent defense to make a stop? Like, it feels stupid sometimes to come on here and say, the Bears need to get lucky again for the 17th time. Like, easy enough. And yet there's a real, like, confidence that they might actually find a way to do it. I mean, I'm like, not personally going to put a bunch of my own money on, the Bears are going to do it again. Because I think last week was kind of the Bears' big Super Bowl. And I'm a little worried about maybe a slight emotional letdown of like, that was the hump they had to get over. And now if they lose the divisional round, who cares? They just beat the Packers in the wild card round. I don't think there's going to be an intensity issue because Ben Johnson is fully intense all the time. It doesn't take a break off of it. But I do wonder if I just think from the fan base perspective, like, this game is playing with house money. It's funny money. Like, we're just happy to be here and have a good time. And I think the Rams are like, no, we got to win this game. Like, Super Bowl window is right now. And I think Chicago's just like having fun. And it's almost frustrating, I think, for the Rams and other teams to look at Chicago and be like, you guys are like, not that they're not taking it seriously, but like, you guys don't deserve this the way we deserve this.
Yeah, the Rams were in the position that you just described with the Bears. That was the Rams last year. The Rams were coming off a year where it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't successful. They did go to the playoffs, but it didn't feel like there was a real defined path to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Last year, all of a sudden, they find themselves, I think they won 9 in a row to end the regular season. They go into Philadelphia in the division round, and the scenario that you just described, the Rams, Matthew Stafford had the ball with about 2 minutes to go. You just needed to go down and get a touchdown. You're going to win the game on the road in the snow. And now all of a sudden, an NFC Championship game at home against the Commanders. It's a pretty darn good path to the Super Bowl. It slipped through their fingers. They didn't get it done. This year, they're in a really similar position. Seattle and San Francisco on the other half of the draw, really familiar opponents for the Rams, opponents that they've had a decent amount of success against. If it is San Francisco, it's back at SoFi Stadium, and this is where their ride ended last year. They need to win this game. This is not a, hey, we got to the second round, it's all good. Their window, like you mentioned, is right now. Matthew Stafford just put up the best year of his entire career. Matthew Stafford's had a darn good career, and this is the best he's ever been. You got Puka playing at a high level. You got all sorts of weapons all over the field. The question is, to kind of put a bow on this going, is that, can they get a stop when they need to get a stop? Which brings me to what you said. If you said to me, you can snap your fingers, give me a scenario, I'll almost take the scenario they had in Carolina, which is Matthew Stafford, 2+ minutes, couple of timeouts, drive down the field and score, and you can end the game. I'll take that. I'll trust Matthew Stafford just about more than I'll trust anybody else on the field, and I'll certainly trust it more than having the defense on the field.
I think both sides would prefer to be trailing with 2 minutes left in this.
I'd rather have the ball last. Yeah, for sure.
So here, you take the lead. I don't want it at the end.
Exactly.
We'll come back at the end. This is going to be a fun game that's going to come down to the very end. A lot to still break down as the week goes on here for both Locked On Rams and Locked On Bears. Really want to thank you for making us your first listen today. We'll have Friday podcast, and then we'll break everything down after the game. Sunday night should be a lot of fun. For Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams, I'm Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears. We will talk to you again tomorrow.